Hi, this is Scott Abbott, and this is my TED Talk submission. To note, the title, and I'm still working on this and getting it where I want it to be, but the current title is How to Conquer Your Bad Natural Tendencies and Get the Heck Out of Your Own Damn Way. Learn the equation for tackling akrasia using commitment devices and the power of a personal accountability system to help you win at work and life. A shorter title is Get Over Yourself. Anyhow, still working on it, but if you're ready, here's the talk. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing great. My name is Scott Abbott, and I have a confession to make. I'm pathetic at staying focused. I'm also not very good with patience and self-discipline. More truth be told, I am a procrastinator, and I get easily distracted. Look, a squirrel. In other words, I have some bad natural tendencies that can occasionally get in my own damn way. And I know this today and am ready and able to admit it because around my 45th birthday, I came to the very happy realization that I'm a lot more like my dad than I thought I was. You see, my dad is a mechanical engineer, and as a kid, I usually struggled with and even rebelled against his engineering ways. You know, believing in formulations, plans, structure, systems, process, and protocol. In other words, doing things the right way. Which in hindsight is probably why I became an entrepreneur. You see, according to what I knew back in the day, entrepreneurs didn't play by the rules. They weren't worried about engineering per se. They just did it and got it done. As an example of one of my biggest dual success and failure stories was starting an internet software company back in 1996. 26 years old, out of my basement, with about $500 in my checking account. And frankly, with no real knowledge of what I was doing, what to do, or how to do it, after all, the World Wide Web had just been born, we grew the company from $0 to $10 million in sales, had 125 employees, multiple offices across the US and Mexico, raised $7.5 million in venture capital. We bought several companies, and then we lost it all within about 5 years. And why? Well, for a host of reasons. But a big one was because I didn't listen to my dad's advice. The good news is I've since learned my lesson, for the most part, about the importance of engineering. Speaking of engineering, a few years ago, as part of an intensive self-awareness program, I took the time to deconstruct and diagnose my life overall. More specifically, why I did not always achieve the traction and the results that I hoped for and expected. I took it upon myself, like a Nobel Prize-winning scientist looking for a cure, to assess the majority of the businesses, opportunities, and initiatives that I had started and been involved with, both on a personal and professional level. Furthermore, to understand what it is about all of us human beings that gets in the way of the accomplishments that we all set out to achieve. And through these studies, analysis, and self-reflection, I discovered that there is a condition that, if left unchecked, can cause people like me and those around us to feel frustrated, unfulfilled, and incomplete. And this condition is known as akrasia. Please don't go worrying about me and wondering if this akrasia is a fatal illness, requires expensive medication, or needs heavy-duty therapy. Well, come to think of it, I'm sure a little therapy couldn't hurt either way. No, thankfully, this isn't a terminal killer disease. It's more like a lifelong issue. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Enough already, Scott, with the buildup. What the heck's akrasia? Well, for starters, the word akrasia was coined back in the days of the Stoic philosophers. You know, those deep-thinking dudes like Socrates, Plato, Epictetus, and Aristotle. And while it's a small word, it packs a big-time punch and covers a lot of ground. In summary, think of akrasia as an all-encompassing explanation for someone with a lot of passion, energy, and enthusiasm, but struggles with willpower and seeing things through from beginning to end. Someone that's innovative, has lots of ideas, big vision, a risk taker, but lacks consistent discipline and continuous self-control. Someone that's excited and energetic and always revving to go, but doesn't always have the stamina, routine, and patience to follow the plan and finish what they started. Someone that's solid with motivation and inspiration, but more often than not, gets impatient, meanders, and can be easily distracted, especially by cute squirrels. In other words, akrasia is a fancy way of saying, oh, you're one of those goofball entrepreneurs. And yes, guilty as charged. Indeed, many entrepreneurs suffer from akrasia in one degree or another. It's kind of wired in our DNA. But you know what? We're not alone. Quick show of hands if you think you've got some akrasia in one degree or another, or know someone that has akrasia. That's all? Really? Well, I guess it's true what they say. Denial is not just a river in Egypt. FYI, I am sorry about making you admit that, and to do that to each other. No, not really. But if this is your situation, it's time to come clean and admit what needs admitting. Because I've now learned for the first time in my life that the thing you need to do with dealing with akrasia is to first admit it, as opposed to the first rule of Fight Club. Assuming you are someone that has akrasia in one degree or another, the big question is, what are you going to do about it? I mean, after all, these are some qualities and characteristics that aren't always attributes. Indeed, while akrasians can be incredibly impactful and do great things, they can also be frustrating and leave big messes if not channeled and harnessed accordingly. You know, like dealing with a real-life version of the frog from the video game Frogger. Watch out for those snakes. Which is why, after I uncovered my akrasia, I next committed myself to discovering what it takes to overcome it. And even better yet, how to harness it. You know, like putting a saddle on a gazelle. And while there's no literal saddle, pill, or potion to remedy akrasia, at least not ones that don't require a bank full of money or get you into legal trouble, many people turn to and use commitment devices. And what's a commitment device, you ask? Simply stated, a commitment device is a tangible mechanism, aka a device, that you use to help you start or stop a pattern, habit, or tendency, or ensure that you do or don't do something that you want to do or not to do. Get it? A commitment device is exactly that, a device used to help fulfill a commitment. What are some common examples of commitment devices, you ask? Well, a wedding ring, journals, religious doctrine, turning your watch upside down, insignia bracelets, tattoos, to-do lists, a diary, alarm clocks, diets, treadmills, scales, making your bed in the morning, and saying your prayers. In other words, anything that you do to help motivate or demotivate you to do something you should or you shouldn't do. Personally, I've used and still use a bunch of commitment devices in my life, and until recently, didn't even know it, let alone what to call them. And one of the most impactful examples of successfully using commitment devices is from the first time that I ran in the Indianapolis 500 half marathon, which was just a few months after a major bike accident that put me in the hospital for a couple of days with broken ribs, busted up wrists and ankles, a cracked kneecap, blown bursa sac, and probably a concussion, and most dangerous of all, a collapsed lung, which I'm told that if left untreated for just a few more hours, could have been life-threatening and forced the doctors to have to bust open my chest. The good news is I survived, as you can see. But there's more to the story. After the accident and a long recovery that gave me a great excuse to stop working out and gain weight, I decided to run in the half marathon, knowing full well that I was not in shape. But being the not-so-bright, middle-aged guy in denial that I am, with a lot of growing up to do, I used the race itself as motivation to get back into shape. Unbeknownst to me at the time, I used 3 commitment devices that day. Number 1, the race itself. Number 2, a very expensive pair of running shoes that I bought to motivate me. You know, you gotta look good and feel good, right? And number 3, a small bottle of 5-hour energy. Funny story about that one. You see, after getting dog-tired way too early in the race, I played a mind game on myself. I pretended that some bad guys had kidnapped my family. I must have watched the movie Taken around that time. And they had injected them with a lethal poison, dumped them off at the finish line, and the only antidote to cure them was in that bottle. But the deal was, I had to get to them, which also meant get to the finish line within 1 hour and 47 minutes, or else. Dun, dun, dun. And yes, I am happy to report that I indeed made it, and within the time demanded. My family was saved, and the bad guys got what they deserved. Liam himself would have been proud. Obviously, commitment devices are good and can be very helpful in a lot of situations. But there's also a rub. Too many commitment devices can actually compound the problem, big time. If you're not careful and you have too many of them in your life, then that in and of itself can make it worse. Frankly, when that happens, all you're really doing is applying Band-Aids and temporary quick fixes that are not usually sustainable, not built for the long haul, and moreover can become an actual enabler. If you think about it another way, commitment devices are a lot like the apps on our mobile phones. They work and can be super useful, but in and of themselves, they're not comprehensive enough. In a word, apps are not holistic in that they don't cover the actual accountability of the device itself. With that in mind, I realized that I required more than apps. What I really needed was an accountability system that keeps my work, me, and moreover my entire life consistently on plan, task, and track. And that's when it hit me. What I actually wanted was a personal accountability system formulated specifically for me to help me minimize my intrinsic liabilities while optimizing my inherent assets, or else there were consequences. You know, kind of like a carrot and stick thing. And the more I thought about a personal accountability system, or PAS, the more it made complete and total sense. In fact, since making that discovery, I have developed, implemented, enhanced, and use every day a personal accountability system. For the record, my personal accountability system is a synthesized amalgamation of hundreds of good books and videos on strategy, leadership, management, and philosophy. And it actually fits on one page. Frankly, everything about it, I give total credit to other people. More truth be told, I do not claim that my personal accountability system is perfect, infallible, or for everyone. Far from it. But it has, does, and will help me ensure that the 4 cornerstones to being human, the mind, the heart, body, and soul, are consistently appreciated, managed, and most importantly, nurtured. In addition, it also helps guide, measure, and validate that I am ready, both strategically and tactically, with regard to what I need to be doing to be successful across the board in business, work, and life. Now, while we don't have time for me to get into all the details of specifically what my personal accountability system is all about, I do want to share with you the 6 imperatives that I believe are the foundational framework for a great personal accountability system. They are purpose. In other words, what's my vision, calling, passion, AKA my why, in work and life? Principles. What are the ethics, mores, standards, conduct, and values that I choose to live by? People. In addition to me and my family, who are the people that I need and how can we help each other? Planning. What are my long-term and short-term goals, priorities, and expectations that I want to achieve? Productivity. The traction side of things. The actions, tasks, and to-dos, and everything I need to get done. And finally, prosperity. This one's the big kahuna. For me, prosperity is the all-encompassing word that represents both the qualitative and quantitative results, benefits and upsides that I'm looking for. Be that with regard to my life, career, family, health, income, happiness, joy, knowledge, you name it. So there you have it, the 6 imperatives that guide and frame my personal accountability system. For the record, I start and finish every day using these as a checklist to motivate and validate that I did and or will do something positively to impact myself and those around me with regard to all 6. And hopefully you can use these or other motivators to help you develop and benefit from your own personal accountability system that works best for you. After all, it's your life, and it needs to be your own personal accountability system. Just keep in mind that the particular details and the overall formula that make up your system may not always be right or always be the best for many reasons. And even if they are good today, they'll need to be modified as time goes on. That will happen. It needs to happen. In the meantime, just do your best to build and use what you think is best. That said, do yourself a favor and be sure to keep your personal accountability system clear, concise, and simple. As the saying goes, less is more. Also, ask yourself if everything about it and included in your personal accountability system is SMART. With the word SMART also standing for the acronym specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So in closing, I have a question for everyone given the theme of this TEDx conference. Are you ready and prepared to handle all of the various crossroads that life will inevitably dish out? Now, candidly, if we're all keeping it real and being completely honest with each other, the truthful answer is no. And guess what? That's okay. You will never be completely ready and fully prepared. But you're not alone. None of us are, and we never will be, regardless of how ready and prepared we think we are. As my priest, Father Kevin, likes to say, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. That said, the difference between who we are and who we want to be is what you do, which is why it's important and imperative to be and stay ready and prepared. You see, while life will be inevitably unpredictable, the most happy and successful people learn to navigate and embrace life's uncertainties. As they say, the journey is the destination. And a great way to handle that reality, and moreover, to help you live an amazingly wonderful, incredibly fulfilling, and an absolutely rewarding life is to use good commitment devices and to have, embrace, and optimize a personal accountability system. Thank you.